All right, we're live. I'm going to wait 1 sec just to let folks trickle in. There's usually a bit of a latency, so we'll give everyone a moment. This is going to be a very special call, though. We're joined here by Preston, who's a LIA member. Honestly, I was telling Preston before this call, I stopped doing these for a while. It's probably been a year, maybe close to a year and a half, where we stopped doing these LIA member interviews. You know, life got in the way, but they've been very popularly requested. There's been a lot of folks that said these videos were the catalyst for them joining LIA or catalyst for them getting into land. And so it's one thing to hear me blabber on about hearing someone's journey, I think is super impactful. So we've got hundreds of folks that are kind of qualified for these interviews, and we're batching out a ton of these for this year. I don't know if we'll get 100 of them done, but anyways, Preston, appreciate you being here, man. Preston's a new dad, joined LIA a little over a year ago, I think. October 2023, I believe, off the top of my head. Had a rough start, turned it around, kicked ass, took names. I think $200,000 plus in profit his first year. Pretty sure you hit your first 6-figure month this year as well, which we'll talk about at the beginning of this year. You're a new dad. You've done this while living in Medellin, Colombia. So you've got a hell of a story, man. Thanks for being here, brother. How are you?
Great. Glad to be here again. It's been a while since we were on here. I think it was a year ago almost.
Yeah, dude, I'm curious for you, getting into land or joining LIA. Did you ever watch any of the other interviews? Was that a part of your journey at all?
I watched them after I joined. Okay. So I saw the interviews with Anthony and maybe a couple other people, and I took notes.
Yeah, cool, man. And like I said, you're a new dad. I think you're in California. It looks like you're in a baller office with like a Rembrandt in the background or something like that. Looks very fancy.
It was like, it's my parents' house, and they're in their 60s, and I would not decorate my house this way, but there's some antiques over there. People our age, they don't have antiques, but when you get a little older, I guess you want some of that.
So are you in Southern California?
We are right now. We're going back to Medellin in May.
Okay.
So we're gonna wait till he's a little older before we do that.
So yeah, before we kick things off, you're obviously a new dad. I think you're 2 months into it, 3 months?
Almost, yeah, about 7 weeks now.
What's that been like? I remember you telling me, you said, Sumner, we just had a killer month in January. I think you said, I'm taking my foot off the gas for a little bit. I'm not doing any new marketing. Has that played out? Has that been true?
Yeah, so I didn't send any mail from the end of October until late February. So I took like a 4-month hiatus off of marketing, and I just worked my old leads. So it was a good opportunity. Would I have made more if I had just kept mailing? Probably. But I kind of also want to see what's it really like to squeeze every single piece of everything out of the fruit there. And now I kind of have a good hang of that now. So I think that's important, because when you have all these leads coming in and stuff like that, and you're triaging everything, I mean, something might fall through the cracks, or you'll have to get back to it in a long time.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, because I think you guys are going to learn a ton in this video. And what I'll say here too, if you guys enjoy these interviews, the best way to let me know is with a thumbs up. Otherwise, I'm just speaking into the void. But we're going to talk about Preston's kind of hero journey that he went through, because he kind of ate shit out of the gate. Like, you didn't have an easy start. It was not roses and sunshine. And I think a lot of the changes that were made were predominantly around acquisitions and just kind of turned your business on. I'm curious, I don't want to get the figures wrong, but you turned off marketing like towards the end of last year. And I think you did have your biggest month in January. So you still were able to eke out a killer month. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's badass.
I mean, you've said this in a few of your calls, but some of the biggest deals, you're looking at a 6-7 month touch time for those. So, I mean, these were deals that I've been working on for the last 5-6 months, because the small little deals, they pay the bills and everything, but you get a few of those big deals and they really move the needle. And a lot of it was just follow up, making sure things move from A to B to C. That it was just work.
You know, it's interesting. I think that's why the little niche that we've kind of created or play in on the LIA side, I think it's like the best flipping model. Like maybe there's strategies where you can make more money. I think the strategy probably tapers off at $3 to $4 million a year, which is a crap ton of money no matter who you are. But what I think is interesting about this model is because we play in that little mid-market pocket, we get a lot of the base hits, right? Like if I look at my deals from this month, I think we've gotten 8 or 9 contracts signed in our own land business this month. Most of those are 25K pops each, but we've got one deal that's $250,000 in spread, one deal that's $100,000 in spread, and an additional one that's like right under 100 grand. And so because we play in that category, it's like we get exposed to the juicy deals. We rarely get them. Like this is a good month that we got a few this month. Usually I'd say it's one a month, maybe one every other month if we're kind of in like a cold streak. But we're profitable on the front end with our marketing, with the base hits. Those are easy to sell. There's always buyers there for them. The turn times to get those things signed is usually about 30 days inside of our CRM. So we can get those things locked up. And then the bigger stuff takes a hell of a lot longer. But most folks, either they try to pursue big deals and they never get them. It's just so hard. It takes so much marketing. Like to get my first subdivide was tens of thousands of dollars in marketing to get that deal. And I wasn't profitable for like 8 months in those campaigns. Or the folks play in the wrong category and they only ever get exposed to very small deals. And even like, I don't even just mean like necessarily that $20,000 is a big deal. Like you could be playing in subdivisions where you're going to make $20,000 on a deal, but you're never going to get exposed to bigger stuff outside of that. Or you could be playing the $1,000 game where you're just working tiny little flips. So I think we're pretty fortunate how we slice and dice this business. I want to give some color. So let's zoom out. Let's just kind of wet people's palates. Roughly, how much mail did you send your first year? Roughly, what were the results? Then we're going to kind of unpack the hero's journey. And actually, one thing I want to say, real quick, Preston, one thing I want to say, I think one thing that is very, well, you're an inspiring dude in a lot of ways. I mean, I'll just say that, but I think I've created a link as to why that is. So first off, Preston, before you got into land, you sold an e-commerce company. You kind of wanted to parlay that success into something new. You joined LIA. You ate crap out of the gate. I think the first 3 to 4 months weren't great. And despite that, you showed up to literally every coaching call. I can't remember a coaching call that you weren't on. You were always the guy to submit his questions first. Out of the Q&A form for our coaching calls, you were always the first person in there. You weren't afraid to raise your hand when things got hard. And I think I draw that back to you being in martial arts. I think people that are in martial arts and fight and work in that domain, you just learn so much about failing and overcoming that because the feedback loop is so tight. I'm going to go spar tomorrow and there's no hiding from my weaknesses. If I get hit in the face, it's my fault. I can't blame the other person. Oh, they were playing unfair. No, that's on me. And so I feel like martial arts is such a quick feedback loop to seeing your bullshit, honestly. And I feel like you were really unbiased in your assessment and you were quick to make the adjustments. Do you think I'm right in that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely. I mean, this isn't my first rodeo in business. I mean, it was like this in my e-commerce business too. I came in expecting stuff to go wrong from the get-go. I didn't make tons of money immediately in my last business, and I didn't see why it would happen here. The thing is, this is the way I kind of look at business. It's kind of like, it is a lot like martial arts in a way, because I mean, one thing I used to do is I still sometimes, but I used to compete in a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions. And the first 3 tournaments I went to, I didn't place a single one because I got the nerves. Training, I mean, it's different in the gym than it is like in an actual match, stuff like that. Like you have to eat shit sometimes. Some people, they barely eat any shit. They're just super talented and they're super fast and they pick up all skills really quickly. I was never that guy in athletics or business. So the thing is, you lose, but if you go back to the gym and you train, and importantly, you talk to your coach and you're like, hey, what did I do wrong here? What can I work on? This and that. Eventually, you're going to medal. You're going to get a medal at some point. You're going to place on the podium somewhere. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say definitely, like, it just the martial arts that taught me a lot of grit. And it's that's a trait that isn't very common nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that's a missing link in most people's game, whatever game they're playing. It's like they're not able to honestly assess their performance and then iterate and make improvements and break things down. And I relate to the fact that, like, dude, I really was never naturally gifted at anything, like straight up. But I was just willing to stay in the pocket and just continue learning and adjust and adjust and adjust. And I spent a lot of time reviewing my performance and breaking things down. And I think that there's a parallel between business, outside of like corruption and scamming and like weird, the dark side of business. Playing business ethically is like, it's just a straight up honest game. Like the revenue don't lie unless you're scamming or you're doing terrible things. But I enjoy pursuits that make you look at truth. Like it is very truthful in a lot of ways. And I just really appreciate that. So anyways, man, I wanted to give you your flowers quickly. Let's go through it. Let's talk about the numbers, the nuts and bolts. Let's get people excited.
Yeah, sure. So last year I sent out 57,000 units of mail, and I locked up 20 deals from that. Sold 14 of them, so I only have 6 on the market right now or in title. Sold 13 of them. And so what's in my bank account right now, like what I got after everything, after mailing, after JV splits, after software stack, all that stuff, it's about $210,000 from all that. And I have about 220,000 in pipeline profit right now. Most of these, of course, are deals from last year. But it could be more. It could be more, actually. It could
always be more.
50. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that's badass, man. I don't know any other business where you can come in your first year, be profitable, and even beyond that, like make a significant amount of money. And you're talking about a marketing cost just for the 57,000 mailers of whatever, $28,000, $30,000. So you're pretty damn on the money for that 10x ROAS, excluding your pipeline. That's about 2,800 mailers per deal, which what we preach is about 2,500 to 3,500 letters per deal inside of LIA. So you're right, like, dude, you're right on the money, which I think is really cool. We're going to touch later on this call about where you're at the business and where you're looking to go, and we're going to do some kind of cool live coaching, which I think everyone will get a kick out of. But let's go back. I think a lot of folks can empathize with the story of joining this business, getting started in it, and eating crap. Despite what any of the gurus will tell you out there, it's not easy by any means, and the bar continues to get raised, and you have to become more skilled to do well in this business. But I think for the folks that are willing to go 10% above, not even just in effort, but 10% above just in terms of like skill, strategy, awareness, education, and effort, it really is like a second blue ocean. Like everyone used to say land is a blue ocean. It's not really anymore. It's kind of like a Red Sea for playing the traditional method. But there's a really nice pond right above it that you can go and swim in. Just a little bit of a hike to get up there. But once you're there, there's really no one playing that game, which I think is pretty cool. So let's talk about what happened when you first got started inside of LIA. You took some licks pretty quickly. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about the changes that we made.
Yeah. So the first 4 months, I sent out about 25,000 units, 27,000 units of mail, and everything just didn't work. Nothing worked. So I got maybe 20 leads from that 25,000 mailers. And can you make a business sending 25,000 mailers and getting 20 leads, qualified and unqualified? I mean, maybe, but not easy. Yeah, I didn't get a single deal from that. Yeah. So by the time you count for software stack and everything, I was in like almost like 20 grand or something, like 18 grand cost.
Let's just zoom out real quick. So Preston, or what you're saying is from that initial batch of 27,000, no deals came from that. So the 20 deals you got came from the back end, the 30,000 mailers thereafter.
Not even 30, because I sent out a 10,000 unit campaign in October, and that one just bombed as well. So it came from like 18.
Wow,
that's the funky thing of this business.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, you're talking about a little over 1,000 mailers per deal when you are synced up and doing the right thing. And again, you're still going to take some licks on marketing, it just happens. But that's
Yeah.
really interesting. No deals from 27,000 mailers. What do you think was the root cause of that?
Oh, it was everything. So, Sumner, you ever been fishing before? You ever
Yeah,
have your relative ever took you fishing?
yeah,
So when I came to this business and I was looking at everyone, I fished a lot. Like that was in my last line of work. That was kind of something that I had to do a lot. But in any case, I looked at everyone and I was like, okay, they're all hitting these spots right here. They're all hitting the docks. They're all hitting the side of the shore and everything. I shouldn't go there. I should go here. Like,
yeah.
we should go here. Like, if everyone's going there, yeah, they're catching big bass and stuff like that, but it must be more difficult there. So let's look for alternative markets. Let's look for stuff that I don't think that many people are mailing. And a couple things. One, plenty of people are mailing those areas. But two, certain markets, it's not that you can't make money from them, you don't want to mail them, but you have to approach them differently. For example, I went to a lot of Midwest counties, like Corn Belt states, and some of those counties are like 80% agriculture. And I'm not talking like someone's planting a little bit of corn and stuff and making a little bit of money. I'm talking about conglomerates with giant uh, irrigation setups, hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment on the property. And can you get a deal from those people? I mean, sure, maybe, but see, I got so few leads. I called back the angry calls, and I got many, many angry calls from those counties. I called some of those people back because I wanted to see what the heck was going on. And some of these people were like, "Hey, listen, Preston, you seem like a nice guy. There are about 20 families that own, or 15, 20 families that own all the land in this county, and they've owned it for hundreds of years, and they've been in this business for hundreds of years, and you just sent them all these pathetic offers, and what do you think is going to happen?" And ever since then I realized, okay, well, now I can mail these counties, but I need to cut out the ag, and it's not that hard. You can see it from outer space. So now I'm like, oh, look, there's a circular irrigation system there. I want to get rid of that. There's a chicken farm here. There's a hog farm. It just took time. So yeah, a big part of it was just picking the wrong markets. And there was definitely a big part of it was just me getting more confident on the phone too. So the thing with sales is kind of like fighting, I guess. Like if you ask most guys, especially guys that work out, oh, can you fight? They're like, yeah, I can fight. So I kind of came in with that attitude. I'm like, hey, I've been in business for 10 years. I know how to talk to people on the phone. That's not that hard. And what you realize is, well, what might have worked in your previous business, it might not work here. And I think you can agree on this. Certain types of jobs lend themselves well to talking to sellers on the phone, like people who it's all the stuff that we look down upon, like people who sell solar panels, car salesmen, people who do that sort of stuff. Those people oftentimes kill it in land because they're like, this is easy compared to that stuff. But if you don't have that kind of background, you need to educate yourself. And it's the fighting analogy kind of makes sense because if you do 3 months of boxing training, you'll probably beat most people who say they can fight. And I think it's the same way in land. Most people are like, oh yeah, I'm a good salesman. I have good sales skills in land. But the truth is most people are not good at sales at all in land. I really believe that.
Dude, the fighting analogy is so true. I really think
Yeah.
that if someone just commits themselves to, let's just say boxing, like,
Yeah.
3 months, 6 months, pretty much any person on the street, there's like a 90% chance you beat them in a fight. Like it's, again, that concept, like just 10% further than the rest of the people, you're in a whole new league. I'll put everyone on this call on game. It's very, very simple. Okay. If we're to break down what Preston's saying and we want to put that into like practical terms, So yeah, first off, like I always say, it's an arbitrage-based business. Like if you're doing what everyone else is doing, like if you're fishing where the fishermen are at, it's probably not a good place to fish. Fish where the fish are, but like try to avoid the crowd. You know what I mean? And so the first thing is we look at non-obvious high demand markets. That's like the whole entire reason we created Land Insights. Is like, how do we find the places that no one are looking at, but for whatever reason, there's just a lot of demand there. It's not the stuff that's 30 minutes outside of Dallas. It's not the stuff right outside of Chattanooga. That's what everyone thinks because that's what everyone's been kind of, preached to do, but it just doesn't work. I mean, it does work, just exponentially more difficult. Like so much of your success starts by just where am I going to market? It's the easiest decision to make because everything else can flow from there. But most people just don't take the time to think about it, or no one really talks about it. So there's that. The next thing is once we actually get our data, there's two things that we need to do. One, we need to physically scrub the list to remove the stuff that's just terrible, like the physical attributes of the properties just don't make sense for what we want to buy. So we remove that. And then you want to do like an ownership scrub. So like I see people all the time that are marketing to like federal land, like BLM land, or like waste municipalities, or huge like Tyson farm conglomerates. It's like these people are never going to sell to you. So usually the physical scrubbing, that probably knock off 40%, 50% of your data right off the rip in almost any market. And the ownership scrub, depending on the market, it can vary a lot, but it can be 10 to 20%. So like we could just double your marketing return just by doing that. And then from there, once you have a market, we got to think about, okay, how can I break it down, fracture it to give these people reasonable offers where I can be like, pretty accurate, not perfect, but pretty accurate. So at LIA, there's 4 ways that we teach that: county-wide acreage ranges, polygons, zip codes, subdivisions. Those are just really a means for us to take a place, break it down, have tight group pricing that we can go and send offers to. And then on the sales side, like this is the whole premise. I think this is why LIA works. Like LIA is not a great program to go and make $10 million. It's just the fastest way to go make a couple $100,000 or more. It's because the vast majority of our education and the coaching is just market selection, acquisitions, because that really is the lifeblood. And on the acquisition side, I think there's some stuff we can touch on here. There's the sales ability, which I will say, like the sales skill that you need here is different than anything else. If you're inside of LIA, I actually just shared a sales call for my team yesterday. If you guys want to review that, just kind of see how we handle these calls. But even beyond that, even if you're like just not that great on the phones, it's actually okay. You can compensate a lot of that for really good acquisition process. And I think one of the things that we went through together is like, there's this faulty belief that we send mail and deals come back to us. No, usually deals get put together over 100 touches or 1,000 touches, and you got to keep on showing face. And a lot of folks drop the ball there. So like you could be okay on the phone. If you've got a great acquisition process, you're going to extract a lot of value. And I would say every month in our business, we get one deal signed that's, oh God, I mean, probably close to 12 months, 8 to 12 months old, sometimes way older than that. And that is the sign of a healthy land business. Are we turning over all the stuff in our pipeline? And most people just don't do that. So for you let's touch on the sales side. I think the marketing stuff is pretty simple, to be honest. It's not rocket science. On the sales side, do you think it was more of a sales skill problem or a sales process problem?
That's a good question. So I'd say it's a bit of both, but I have something to say about sales. Sales is it's kind of like boxing in a way. There are some people who are really type A and more high pressure, and they're more aggressive. Like they're like a Roberto Duran or a Mike Tyson type fighter. And there are some people who are like they're counter punchers. They're a little more. They're not as aggressive, but they're very dangerous to fight with because you make one mistake and then he knocks you to the ground, like a Muhammad Ali type. Yeah. So I really believe that sales is kind of the same way. You have to find your groove. I'm not really the type A pressure type guy who works like that. That doesn't fit my personality. I'm more like a counter puncher type of salesperson. So both of them get knockouts. Like I got 20 contracts from sending 19,000 mailers, but you have to, part of it was finding my groove, finding what works for me. I mean, a lot of my calls, they're like 6 minutes long or something. like that. I'm not talking about football and stuff like that and the weather. And I mean, I don't know anything about football. I probably lost deals because I don't know anything about football at all. But that's okay with me because what my approach seems to work for a certain subset of people. And you know, some people, they might respond better to the type higher pressure salesman, but I don't really work like that. I like to hit them with multiple touch points. I like to convey a lot of competence and I'm trying to convince them that they can trust me. This is what I'll offer, and I'm not going to back out on them. And I really do believe that. Like I hardly renegotiate any deals last year, because if I say we're going to give it to you at this price, you're going to get at that price, and that comes across in my calls. I think like people, they trust me. So part of it was finding my voice, and I'd say another part of it was being surprised about how many times you have to follow up with people, and you kind of get a sixth sense after a while, because there are about 200 dead leads in my CRM almost, and about 20 or so that actually turned into contracts. And when you talk to that many people, you get a sixth sense about where this is going. Like the people who have a not so good property and we're off by $80,000, those people, you know, it's not that you don't want to talk to them, but you might put them in the back burner or something like that. But the person where you're off by like $10,000 and you can tell there's a motivation to sell right there, you have to work that lead to the bone. So once I got that sixth sense, then the contracts started coming in. Because before I was just taking everything. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna exhaust myself trying to work these leads back here that aren't working at all. And when you do that, you waste a lot of time. So once I got the skills side down, kind of finding my approach to sales that worked for me, that helped a lot of things. And also having like a process, having like an SOP as well. Like you follow up this many times. Like one thing I do is if the person likes talking to me, then most of the time then I'll follow up fairly regularly. But if it's a red seller and we're just really far from price, I might space it out a little, something like that. They're going to ghost me if I keep bugging them. So you have to. It takes time to kind of develop this. And you write it down and you say, okay, this works, this doesn't work.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. I'm going to ask you a question about your style here in a second. Sure. On the phone, how you handle these calls, but just to synthesize for everyone that's listening, actually the beginning of April, the first week of April on Friday, for LIA members, we're doing a big live training around high status conversations, which sounds very weird. But status on calls with sellers is honestly everything. I mean, it's not literally everything, but it's a lot. And most folks that get on these calls are very low status. And when it comes to low status, the seller thinks this person can't fulfill what they're promising. And if there's no trust there that you're going to get this thing across the finish line, they're not looking to move forward with it. Because what we're offering is a quick, easy solution. But if you're not the kind of guy or girl that can fulfill that quick, easy solution, they're not interested. And there's so many folks that just reek of low status on these calls. They're so needy and desperate. They can't explain things correctly. They're stumbling over their words. They're following up too often. And it does more harm than good. I think the other thing too, and actually just for context, guys, so inside of our own land business, like the last 2023, we pretty much just stayed at the same pace. I was working, I'm not joking, I was working 3 hours a week in the land business. I was very, very low commitment, and pretty much all of my time was going towards LIA and Land Insights, which we launched that year, and then started going harder in the business last year. But a lot of the fruit is starting to kind of come to fruition this year, end of last year and this year, and things are really upticking. Like we're kicking ass this year so far. And one of the things that we do is we've really escalated the amount of training that our team is getting. We do daily calls, but we've even taken that to a whole other level. And I was talking to our acquisition team. I'm like, what's the biggest change that you guys have made based off of all the training that we're doing? And the number one thing that they said is learning how to have high status on these calls. And that's when I knew I needed to bring this to LIA. And the thing is, you can create high status conversations, whether it doesn't matter if you're just getting started. It's really just a skill set. And so I thought that was really interesting. The biggest change for our team this year, among many other smaller things. So there's that. The thing that I've been telling my team since I got started in this land business and started to actually have employees, especially on the acquisition side, is like the sixth sense is knowing where to spend your time, because whether you're a solo operator or you've got team members, their time is finite, your time is finite. And so when you have, let's say, 100 leads in your CRM, how do you know who you should be working with? Part of it is analytical and part of it is kind of a feeling. There's many things that we look at for qualification, speed of response. Like there's many layers to it, but that's the magic, because you can only make so many calls in a day. Like an average acquisition manager will make 75 to 100 dials a day. They'll connect with 20% of them. They'll have like 10 meaningful conversations. They'll make 1 or 2 offers. So we're barking up the right tree. And again, some of it's like you can quantify it, and some of it's just a feeling. Like you just know there's something here, and you got to be willing to cut bait in the other areas, or at least just change your follow-up cadence or move it to some kind of automated cadence. Preston, did you listen to the role-playing call I shared yesterday?
No, I haven't yet.
I was going to compare it to your style, but how would you say that you're handling most of these calls? Like if you just had to summarize your style, for example, like I think a style that works, there's many that work, but like an archetype that works on calls is with sellers is the very to the point, shoot you straight, brass tacks, honest, a little rough around the edges, New York, New Jersey, Bronx type energy, and those guys and girls, they elude status on the call because it's like, hey, fucker, I don't like sign the contract, or I don't really care. Like they're just so matter of the fact, but it actually lends to having trust for these sellers. And you're usually dealing with sellers from the baby boomer generation. And so like they kind of resonate with that, just like radical honesty. So how would you summarize your style?
Yeah, so I would say I'm pretty different. I mean, again, you need to sound like you know what you're doing. So when I first came into this, I didn't even know what a deed was, or
You and I both.
I didn't know what a title company was or anything. It was just, and I think that came across on the phones.
Yeah.
But you do a bunch of this, and you get to a point where you can explain everything from A to B to C very, very clearly. And for me, what I found what works for me is you want to sound like you're a very enthusiastic person from Chase Bank or something like that. Like it has to, people, when they talk to you, they're like, oh, that guy he's made very few mistakes in his life.
Yeah.
This isn't a fly by night operation. This isn't a mom and pop shop or something like that. Because I really, you have to think about why would people not want to sell to you. So one is they just don't want to sell. They don't need to. 2 is price. That's a huge one. That's a huge, by the way, price is the number 1 objection in this business. So you have to get excellent. You have to become excellent at dealing with that objection. But the third one is trust. People, they don't want to get scammed, right? Like it's in the news all the time, and they're right to feel distrustful of you. So you have to overcome that, and a big part of that is just sounding like you're competent on the phone, and you're going to say, okay, listen, this is what the price is going to be. This is what we can offer. This is what you're going to get. There's no hidden fees or anything like that. We pay for all closing costs and everything. We're looking to close in maybe 3 to 4 weeks right here. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but if the title is clean, then we should have no problem with this. I'm going to follow up with you every single week regarding the status of the closing. And when you talk like that, I mean, for us, it's not a big deal. We're like, yeah, duh, of course. But most of these people, they don't deal with this all the time. So you have to come across as trustworthy. It's so important. And you have to come across as trustworthy, and you have to deal with the objections. So a lot of times you're talking with people, and you might think that the objection is price, but maybe it's the terms, or vice versa, or it's something else. And you have to get that out of them somehow by having candid conversations. Because because if you don't do that, they're just not going to sell to you, and you'll wonder what the hell happened here, which is what happened to me at the beginning of this business.
Yeah. Damn, a lot of good stuff to unpack there as well. If you guys are at home, I'm telling you that there is nothing but gold being shared here. And whether you join LIA or not doesn't really matter. You can run with a lot of these concepts, and these things are like, they're free to do. Like, it's not like you need all these bells and whistles to pull off what we're talking about here. Yeah, I always say this in LIA, and I always say this to our team. It's like what we're shooting for is the speed and professionalism of a Fortune 500 company with the down home feel of talking to your neighbor. It's like, I don't want to be this stuffy guy in a suit that they feel like they can't relate to. But when I say something, we do it. We always have open lines of communication, whether it's a double close, owner finance, cash close, every step of the way, we're leaving nothing up to, being ambiguous. And I think one of the big mistakes too that a lot of folks make is they have all these assumptions that sellers totally know the closing process. It's like, dude, they don't. Like, make it really simple for them. And there's all these little negative keywords that I always try to avoid, like closing cost, or we're going to flip the property, or arbitrage. It's like the sellers either don't know what that means, or it kind of turns them off a little bit. So you want to break things down into absolute plain English. I think it's probably damn near like 30 to 40% of our sellers, this is like the first true real estate disposition transaction they've ever been a part of. Maybe they inherited the property. Maybe they bought the property, but they never sold the property. They might have bought it 30 years ago. They don't really remember the process. So there's a lot of value in explaining things simply, keeping open lines of communication. What would you say, inside of LIA, we talk about like the different seller colors or avatars. What would you say is like your bread and butter avatar to work with?
I mean, I'm pretty good with all of them. I think.
You got to have a favorite though, right? Not red sellers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, no one likes red sellers, or at least that's what most people would say. But I would say, I mean, I'm pretty good talking to women who are maybe a little older, divorcees, stuff like that, people, or widows, and again, those people, if you use high pressure tactics on them, it's not going to work. You're not selling to a dude. You're selling to a woman. So you have to come again. You have to be like, okay, I'm on your side. This is what we can do. This is what's going to happen. What do you think about that? Simple, right?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the greatest things that you can do on sales calls, I like to create this us versus them dynamic. And so a lot of times that the sellers and land investor and acquisition manager, it's like it's very inflammatory. They're kind of on opposing forces, and they're trying to beat each other up. And maybe there's a time for that, but that can work. But for the most part, I like to create the dynamic where it's, hey, I'm on your side. I've got this terrible underwriting team. They're a bunch of spreadsheet nerds. They make my life so hard.
Yeah.
I'm fighting them for you, but we're in this together. And I like to create like that ally dynamic. Like, it's much easier to use some honey than some pepper to try to win the deal. But again, like, it's not really one size fits all. You do need to read the room and have self-awareness and understand who am I talking to and what matters to them. But yeah, I would say my favorite demographic to talk to for sure is an older woman. I don't know. They're just sweet. They're usually like, they usually are, no matter what happens with the deal, they're usually excited just to talk to someone, especially if they're widows and stuff like that. Just kind of feels good, And that's one of the funny things about this business. I lose sight of it all the time. We all do, but it's like, bro, a lot of the people that we work with, we have real freaking impact. Like, it's a big deal. And getting this property done and sold with can it can be life-changing, especially for folks that are retiring or already retired. And I think too, like, again, whether you do a deal with someone or not, those conversations ultimately are a transfer of energy. And if you can leave that person energetically in a better place than where they started, that feels good. And it really matters to people, dude. I've talked to folks, or my team's talked to folks, or I've talked to folks that we just become friends with them. Like, they just want to call us up and just chat, and they might be lonely. And, it breaks my heart thinking about old people being lonely. I don't know why it's like the saddest thing to think about. So there's a lot of good that gets done in this business. People lose sight of that. Preston, based off of kind of the hero's journey that you went through, what's the advice that you'd give to folks on the other side? Maybe they haven't got started and you want to prepare them, or maybe they're going through some crap right now and they're having a hard time.
So you listen, it took me, there's always a latency here
Mm.
before before the wheels hit the road in your business. Okay. And for some people it's longer, and for some people it's shorter. Some people are instantly profitable, or they have instant traction right here. For me, my latency period was about 4.5 months and about $20,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Yours might be longer or shorter. You have to figure out, how do I survive during that time? How do I pay the bills? How do I do this, do that? For me, this is what I said. I talked to my wife. I said, listen, this is my dream here. I want to make big deals. I want to work these on the big boys table. My goal is one day I want to sign a $1 million deal. I don't know if it'll be in land, but it'll be in something in real estate. That's my dream. And I said, in order to do that, I want to devote 2 years to this and X amount of dollars. And I'm going to devote X amount of dollars in 2 years. And if nothing happens, then if I have no traction whatsoever, I'll go do something else. I'll get a job or something like that. And you have to do the same thing, because this might take you 1 month to get it. It might take you 1 month to get a deal, or it might take you 1 year. And you need to, if you don't have the money, then you need to figure something out. Go drive Uber or something. Go work at Wendy's. I took side jobs to pay for my grocery bills while I was deep in the red. So you have to, as long as you don't stop doing this, you haven't lost. You just figure it out. Okay, figure out how do I switch my life to a wartime economy so that I can really devote myself to this and make it work. Because I mean, I only became better at this when I talked to 200 sellers or something like that, and many hundreds of other people, realtors, title companies, stuff like that. If you apply yourself and you just show up, you're going to get better at this. You're going to develop field craft. You're going to get better at everything from A to B to C. So one thing I used to struggle with a lot is picking markets, but now that's pretty easy for me, because I'm seeing, it's like the Matrix, the guy behind a computer. You're seeing, at first it's just all green lines. You're like, what the hell is this? But now I'm like, oh, well, that's a brunette, that's a blonde right there, that's a car. It all makes sense to me, but that took a lot of time. And you just have to, if you're struggling right now, figure it out. If money is the issue, get an extra job or something like that, or spend less money and just figure it out. If it's time, you got to make time. There's no getting around that. This is a skill that you have, that's going to take a long time to acquire. And there are no shortcuts in that regard.
Yeah, dude, straight up. I think it's, people might look at your story or my journey and they see the fruits of it or what have you. And I don't think oftentimes people put enough emphasis on the origin story and what your mindset was going into it. Like, straight up, no exaggeration, I was willing to die for this. Like, I was all in. Like, that, just failure wasn't an option. Like, if I did take some L's, like, I wasn't going to give up. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of folks get sold this dream, kind of hook, line, and sinker, that this is going to be easy. Then it gets hard, and then they concede and they give up. And I've told this story before, but I used to, when I started this, or when this business really started clicking for me, I started it before, but when it really started clicking, I was living in this apartment in La Jolla, and I would work in my kitchen, because it was like a very small little spot, and I had like a high countertop, and I would work in the kitchen. And from my window, you're looking out at two things. Okay, it's very interesting. So one window is looking at an O'Gara coach. I don't know if you guys know what O'Gara coach is. It's like one of the biggest exotics dealership in Southern California. They've got everything, all the nice stuff, McLarens, Lambos, Ferraris. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, okay, that is one alternative of where my life might end up. Then also on the other side is a gas station. And I'm like, I temporarily might take some licks to where I have to work at that gas station, but I know my final destination's at O'Gara, coach. Like, I'm going to end up buying a car at some point. And I was just, I would do anything to make it work. And I like the concept of like a wartime economy. You batten down the hatches, hunker down, make sure you're getting started with some coin. You've got a contingency plan to make ends meet if you need to, and give yourself a two-year runway. Like, don't expect this is going to happen overnight. One of the things that really peeves me, it really gets my goat, and people might hear this and say, oh, well, it's because you're biased. No, I'm actually really not biased. I really don't care if people join LIA or not. Like, that, whatever choice someone makes is fine. But what I do care about is when people, it's almost disrespectful when people look at this and like, yeah, I've got $12,000, so I hear this dozens of times a month. I'm just going to go put that into mail, and if it works, then I'll think about getting educated. It's like, okay, A, it's disrespectful to the level of effort that's required and how challenging this business is, and it's completely misguided. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you don't just send some mail and you got a business that you're rocking and rolling. So for the folks that are like, hey, I've got whatever, a little lump sum saved up, I think anything under $10,000, just keep on saving. Like, I would just wait. Like, if you're with a couple $1,000s, I mean, maybe you can get a list and start cold calling and get your feet wet, but in the interim, still build your nest egg and save. If you're beyond $10,000, I really think the smartest thing that you can do is take one step backwards, get educated to take 12 steps forward type thing. What would you say to the folks that are completely against getting educated and have this? It's a fallacy. It's like, oh, it's just marketing, right? So let me just send some marketing and it'll work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that might have worked at some point. I don't know when that worked, but you're going to get crushed doing that now. I mean, one of the things I did was, after, when things weren't really catching in my business, I tried talking to everyone, many dozens of people, successful, sort of successful, unsuccessful, and I really try to pinpoint why are some people here and why are some people right here, and I came up with a lot of things, but one of them is definitely a lack of education. I mean, can you come into this with no coaching at all and make it big? Maybe, but I don't know anyone who's done that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
Everyone who I know who's doing really well, they've been in at least one, maybe two, sometimes more coaching programs. Okay. Yeah. They get into they're in things that aren't even in land. They're in sales training programs. Okay. Or they learn other skills that might help them in land, like they take due diligence courses and stuff like that. The people who are into this, they're really into this, and they're nerds about it. They're land nerds. And if you think that this is like day trading on Robinhood or something, you're going to get absolutely smoked.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. It's like, okay, you want to market to the same markets that I'm marketing in? Cool. Try competing against me. I'm going to take your lunch money all day long. And it is a competitive game. So if you're going against people that are well educated, they're continuing to improve and iterate and learn, and they're skillful, they've been doing this for some time, like, you're going to get steamrolled. I think I got very fortunate when I got started, because I think I was right on the eclipse of when it was still kind of like you could get dumb lucky. So I got started in 2019. You couldn't. I was before the time where you could get dumb lucky on big deals. Like, I think there was an era. I've heard stories where you could send 2,000 mailers and you're guaranteed to get like a deal or two that's like 20K, 50K, like big stuff, like easy. I was going after the small stuff, but you could still get pretty dumb lucky and like do okay. But I'm telling you, after COVID, the dynamic changed so radically. It's just not the same business anymore. And I don't think that's a bad thing. My favorite folks to work with are like previous entrepreneurs, people that have like had other businesses. And it's not so much so that they're coming in and they're out of the box just a lot better, but they know like the macro science of business. And it's like, it's a who, not how problem always. And they just understand that. So it's like, yeah, someone has what I want and they know how to do it. Let me get with them. I'm going to get coached by them, or I'm going to partner with them, or whatever. And the folks that this is their first dance, it's like that they're allergic to that. Like, investing in education, what a crazy concept. And it's not even, like you said, I think sometimes the greatest fruit that can be bared in our education, it's not even just land education. It's that few millimeters adjacent, that kind of education, whether it's learning AI or new sales training skills or whatever, and just continuing to bring that stuff to the table. Yeah, those are the folks I love working with. It's just a mindset thing. Like when you were in the e-commerce world or any of the ventures before that, had you gone through a similar education cadence? Like, had you already worked that muscle of getting educated?
At first, no, which is why I got crushed there in the beginning as well. It's just, I mean, you have to find good education. I'll say that there's a lot of bad education out there,
Especially in
and
land.
if you, yeah, and unfortunately, those kind of programs they give everyone a bad rap. But if you pick a good program like this one right here, and you apply yourself and you make the right connections and you show up every day, then you're stacking all the cards in your favor, which is what you need to do when you're first starting.
Yeah. I got an email, and I'm not kidding, guys. I literally get at least a dozen of these emails or calls to my team per month. I won't read the whole email. I won't reveal the person's identity, or I won't even reveal who they're talking about. But they went through one course that's pretty popular. They said it's incredibly outdated. It was well structured, but incredibly outdated. Then I went through a popular free course and got very little from it. Then I went through another program. I liked it, but the methodology didn't make sense for what I was trying to do. And then finally, they landed on this one-on-one coaching offer that turned out to be a giant waste of time and absolute disappointment, and only included 4-year-old recycled content. And then they just went on this like perma rant about how bad it was. And yeah, look, I've said this on previous calls. I've said this before, but it's like pretty much everyone is saying the same thing, right? In these coaching programs. And it's just like this big little echo chamber where they're all shouting the same concepts that maybe was like pre-COVID relevant or even before then, but it's just not post-COVID relevant. And the dark truth is a lot of these educators, they don't run a business anymore. Maybe they fund deals for their members, and some of them just don't. They just said education's an easier business. And I think it's borderline criminal to teach a thing and not do the thing. That's just my honest truth. Sure, you can still get value from people that don't. I'm like, it's not for me to decide, but from my purview, I'm never gonna go learn boxing from an out of shape fat dude smoking cigarettes. But you see that, you know what I mean? Like the jujitsu coach who's out of shape, but it's like you might know the theory, but like I don't know. I'm looking for the technical advice, and especially something that's ever evolving like lands. I think people need to get louder about this stuff. I'm really at my wit's end about it. It's really freaking frustrating. And not only do these people get their time wasted, they get their money wasted. A lot of these people, not only in the education, but they sink a lot of dough into their business, and more times than not, it doesn't pan out. So yeah, man, it gets my goat. And again, this is not a promotion for LIA. I'm not telling you that you have to work with us. I'm just saying be smart, take one step back before you take 2 steps forward. And I think, Preston, that's part of the reason you got punished when you first got started a bit, because you did go really fast on how much mail you sent out before ever really getting validation from your campaigns. Even if someone has a big budget, it's like roll the dice slowly, ease into it, get a proof of concept, and then really double down on your campaigns. 27,000 mailers is nothing to scoff at in a few months. You know what I mean? And I'm guessing most of those were probably sent out in like a 2-month period. Would you say that's right?
Like 3.5 months, something like that.
Yeah. So you're talking about, half of a month of being inside of LIA to then go over the next 3.5 months, send out a lot of mail. It's a dangerous game. Okay, cool. That's helpful advice. I want to crack into talking about where you're at now, and then hopefully I can provide some assistance to you.
Sure.
Before we do, is there any we come across a lot of funny stuff in this business. Is there any very memorable deal, maybe a favorite deal? It doesn't have to be like the most profitable deal. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but something that stands out.
Oh, I mean, I've had I've been through everything here. I've had people try to scam me. People who right as we're about to sign, they pass off a fake ID or something. So I had this one lady. It was a property in Tennessee. Not even a big deal, like $30,000 or something like that. And I was really suspicious of her because she kept asking me for money, Cash App, stuff like that. She's like, when are we closing? When are we closing? And I mean, at first I was so naive. I was like, oh man, what a poor lady. Something awful must have happened to her. I gotta help her and give her this liquidity. So at some point, someone was like, Preston, you should ask her for her ID. Something's not going right here. And she gave me an ID and on the phone, and I looked at it and I was like, huh, so there's something weird about this ID. So I typed in Georgia state ID because she was from Georgia, and on Google, and I found that same ID. And what she had done was she had photoshopped it a bit really badly. She didn't even change the name or anything, so it was like Jane Doe or something like that. And I mean, what I'm learning now is that there are people out there trying to title fraud is a big thing. There are people out there who are purposely doing this, and they're hoping to scam you, a title company. But I'd say my most memorable deal was a double close that I made like $1,000 on, because like I told you before, I don't like renegotiating deals unless I really have to, unless there's some serious hair on it. I don't like renegotiating deals because if I say that it's going to be this price, I'll make it that price somehow. And this property, it was one of my first properties, and I didn't really know anything about land at the time. And I was just like, well, I think I could kind of I could sell it for this price and whatever. And it came to a point where the double close contract, we had like 14 days left or something like that. And we had nothing. And I was thinking about going back and telling the seller, hey, we need another 3 months and we need it at a lower price. But I knew that would break the trust that we had there. So I let stick on the market for a little bit, and someone came in with an offer, and I did the math, and I was like, I'm going to make about $1,000 from this on a $70,000 property. And I did it because that's something that was instilled in me by my parents, I guess, in terms of doing business. I don't like wasting people's time. He wanted it at a certain price. And could I have been like, we need it at a lower price and let's wait another 3 months. It's not a big deal for you. You don't need the money right now. I could have done that. But to me, maintaining my frame, I guess, and my reputation is more important. So I made $1,000 from that double close.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Of course, I do think there's a time to negotiate where it can be fair to all parties. But I think on the whole, we really do try to be. I mean, look at the offer that you mail someone. It's like there's going to be many times you have to renegotiate that because it's hard to get all the facts right. Yeah, but when it comes to making an offer, I mean, we're pretty on the nose. I would say it's one deal a quarter that we end up having to renegotiate on average, like either through a double close or at the closing table, because stuff comes up where it's like, oh, well, you didn't disclose this to me. And the trouble is, while we try to keep it on the up and up and keep our integrity in check, not all sellers do. They don't always deliberately lie, but they definitely don't reveal certain facts that change the value of the property. Like we're buying a deal in Texas right now, and it's big spread. It's over 6 figures of spread on the deal. And the story just keeps on evolving. First off, there's someone that's using the property, and then we find out there's actually a mine on the property. Then we find out they actually have a real written lease. Then we find out they actually have a lien against the property. It's like, why didn't you disclose this in the beginning? That certainly affects the value. So there's a time and place for it. What about a deal that's in the pipeline right now? Anything cool that you're working on or maybe have listed that's interesting?
Yeah, so I have a property in Michigan. It's a commercial property, or what it is it's in town, so it's the location is great, and it's 6 acres, and it's just surrounded by lots of business. And it turns out what this property was, it's currently zoned residential, but it's in the future use plan of the county to make it a commercial property. And it's being assessed at a commercial rate. So for what it is, the taxes on it are extremely high, which is why the seller wanted to sell it to me. So I got it at a pretty low price. I got it at $38,000, and it just passed the first stage of the rezoning, the township meeting. Like they had a public hearing for it, and they decided to move it to the next stage. So the next one is the city. I talked to the planner, and he said he's pretty sure it's going to happen because well, they want more commercial properties in that area. They want more business because it's in the future use plan, and they're trying to revitalize this area and make it better. And if it is indeed a commercial, if I can get it rezoned to a commercial property, I've gotten multiple realtor opinions on it, including commercial realtors. It's probably worth at least $200,000.
Wow.
So, but the thing about that is, it's been this whole process, this rezoning process, it's taken months. And when I put it on the market, it's not like a residential property in the middle of in a nice area. This is a commercial property, and it might take a while to sell. It could be many months before I see that money back. But it was an outsized bet. So spend 40,000, make 200, and make 160. That's a good bet, right?
That's a good bet. Yeah, I actually remember looking at that one together like last year. I mean, it's been a long time in the making. What were your costs for filing for the rezoning?
Not a lot. So they wanted $1,000, $900. They wanted $650 for the application and $350 for the public hearing.
Wow.
So see, these are things that I had no clue about before. You just learn on the fly. But now I'm like, okay, if I find another property like this, it could be a entitlement opportunity, a rezoning opportunity here. And I do think that my long-term strategy for this business is kind of niching down somehow. I don't know if that's going to be distressed properties or entitlements or more value adds, but it's definitely in that direction. But so you don't go to, there's no real estate school grad program that you can go to learn this stuff. You learn it by talking to some guy in the county for 30 minutes once every month and a half or something like that. Like it's you just have to, that's how you learn. And that could be a really good deal. But most I mean, my best deals in terms of dispositions, they were bigger deals that I just negotiated down a lot. So like they're $120,000, $150,000 properties that I might have sent an offer at like $100,000 or something, and I just had to say, would you take 60 for it? No, not 60, or I go lower than that. Would you take 50 for it? And you could just feel the awkwardness on the phone. And then a bunch of those people are going to say, "Screw off, you weirdo." And some people say, "You know what? I will." And that's where the money is made.
The best thing you can do, man, when you make those stupid offers, just sit in that discomfort and
don't say anything.
Don't say anything. And usually if you give it 10 to 30 seconds, the seller will be the first one to talk. But it's so awkward, especially your first few times, man, to sit in that silence. It's so funny why that's so uncomfortable for humans, just to sit in that silence, Preston, I want to jump into just kind of helping you out with where you're at. I know you submitted some questions to Juan. Before we do, I got to let someone in that's at the front door. So I'm going to go open the door for them and let them in. If you guys have any questions in the chat for Preston, can you see the chat?
I'm not on YouTube right now. I'm using the StreamYard.
So you should be. I don't know if the comments here.
Click
on the comments. Can you see that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, now I see them. Yeah.
So guys, any questions for Preston? This is a resource. Leverage Preston. Sometimes I think it's better to learn from someone that just did the thing opposed to someone that did it 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So questions, pop them in the chat. I got to go let our housekeeper in. She's at the front door, and I'll be right back.
So if no one has any questions, I'll share a line that that has gotten me many deals. So it's a price objection line that I use a lot, and it's very simple. But this has this has worked a lot for me. But it's basically saying, let's say they want 100,000, and you offered them 50, your anchor price, like that. You gave them a no right there. So you need to meet somewhere in the middle. You just say, okay, seeing as Mr. Seller, seeing as $50,000 is too low, but $100,000 won't work for my company. Is there a price in the mid? Can we meet in the middle somewhere and make a deal happen today? And you just leave it and you just let that sit. That line has resulted in many contracts for me. Okay, let's see questions here. Is it better to stay away from all major cities? I like cities that are beneath a major city. So look for areas that are an hour and a half away from the secondary major cities, not the major cities. I think that's too rough. I use county, not county. I use polygon pricing most of the time. I don't use, and broken up into acreage ranges. I don't do zip codes. Do you wholesale any of the land? No, we I either get it funded or by another investor, and we split the profit at the end, or I just buy it myself if I can make the deal happen.
Yeah, honestly, I think wholesaling is probably the worst strategy in land, like truly. In fact, we actually just made a post about this in our Facebook group if you guys are inside there. I mean, like there's some pros because you kind of like already know what the end buyer wants, which is typically a builder. You're not really doing B2C wholesaling, so it's usually to a builder. So it's nice for the sense like, their buy box. Hey, if you can go get this lot locked up in this Florida subdivision, we'll pay 40K guaranteed for it. But it's just a bloodbath, man. And you're making small dollar amounts. You're making 10K, 15K a pop. Maybe if you're lucky, 20, 30K, but those are super outliers. And you're typically working in super saturated markets. The due diligence is way more complex. And I say this because I tried it. I did like a 6-month experiment when I first got started. I was just cold calling in different subdivisions in the Southeast and in Florida. And I connected with builders. I said, tell me what you want, what subdivisions, what do you pay for them? And it's a horrible strategy. The reason that I think it has some popularity is because it's really appealing. Like you can be like, just all you need is a cell phone. Just get a prop stream list and start calling it. Like, yeah, you could probably make some money, but I don't really know any like badass land investors doing multiple 7 figures a year wholesaling land. It makes a lot more sense for houses because there's always an end buyer for it, and like there's much more like a B2B marketplace. That just the B2B stuff doesn't really work in land as well. So yeah, Houston, pretty crappy market. I mean, like, again, we look at markets objectively. I don't look at like where I live or what's in proximity to me. I look at where's the demand, right levels of supply. I can fracture it down for pricing. It has the right kind of inventory. And more times than not, it's very non-obvious. Like we work in the weirdest places. I'm sure, Preston, you can attest to this. You're like, why are people buying land here? Those are the sweet spots. When it's obvious, like, yeah, I'm in like the Houston area, Dallas area, I'm outside of Austin. It's a bloodbath. You've got other land investors, house wholesalers, realtors trying to get listings, developers trying to get the property. So you're dealing with very savvy sellers, and it's just, yeah, it's cutthroat. I don't enjoy it. And most of those markets after COVID have absolutely ballooned with inventory. So if you go and look at these markets, they have so much supply in them. And one of the key metrics that we look at inside of LIA for good markets is the right level of supply, typically 25 to 250 active listings for the entire county. I forgot to ask this. What's your tool stack? What are you using for data? What are you using for like your due diligence? Any tools that, I don't know, have been beneficial or things that you'd recommend folks?
Yeah. So last year, for data, I used DataTree and a scrubbing VA, and I've since moved to Land Insights, so we're not doing that anymore. It's just yeah, there's no reason you should not use AI scrubbing now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
so,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Are you picking your markets out of there, or are you doing that manually?
A bit of both. I mean, I kind of use it to get a big idea of what the market is, but then
Yeah.
I still have to go with Zillow and Redfin to do my deep dive on it.
Yeah.
And there's Pebble, that's my CRM,
Okay.
and Answer Force for the phone calls. That's pretty much
Okay.
it.
Yeah, that's really all you need. You need a data provider. You need something that does your, like, you can DD properties on. CRM, Pebble's good. Follow Up Boss is good. Whatever you like, go high level, doesn't really matter. And then some kind of answering service, Pat Live or Answer First Force is a popular one. One thing that's pretty cool too, we are, I think exactly, let's look at the calendar, guys. I think we're 1 week out from the Land Insights comping tool. No, we're 9 days out from Land Insights comping tool going live, which I cannot wait to release. I just put it in the chat too. We have a pretty cool offer with Land Insights. You guys can get 1,000+ free seller leads at that link down below, if you guys want to test drive the platform and get a bunch of seller leads. Also, if you guys are inside of LIA too, we've rolled out a free trial for Land Insights. So if you're inside of LIA and you haven't used it, everyone gets a 14-day free trial, whether you're new or old inside the community. All right, let's jump in, man. Do you want me to go through the stuff you submitted to Juan, or do you want to just kind of fill me in on what's going on in the business right now?
Yeah, sure. I'll fill you in. So right now, I'm kind of trying to decide where I should go from here, because the thing is, I'm getting leads, okay, and I'm getting enough leads to have a pretty solid land business here. But I don't think I'm at the point yet where I can scale up in terms of there's really no reason to hire an acquisitions manager right now. I get maybe 1.25 leads a day, qualified and unqualified. So there's some stuff in a CRM that I have to keep working on, of course. So there's always work to be done. But I'm not on the phone 3 hours a day calling people. That's not where I am right now. So I mean, I guess what I need to do is I need to bring in more leads. And to do that, I could, one, boost the mail. Instead of sending out 10,000 units, approximately 8 to 10,000 units, I send out 20,000 units or something like that or more. The thing with that is, right now I'm using I'm kind of like Anthony in that I use a very targeted approach right now, and I look for weird pockets, and I'm pulling 50 pieces of data from this market and this market.
Yeah.
So it takes a while for me to aggregate all this data. So like Anthony doesn't send out 20,000 units of mail a month. Like, that's not his business.
I think he sends out like 4,000 or less, which is crazy.
Yeah. He's boosting it a bit more this year. But in any case, because of that, I'm not getting tons and tons and tons of leads right now. I'm getting, like I said, maybe one a day, 1 to 1.25 leads a day. So I thought maybe I should, if I'm not, because the thing is, I've tried that approach before, granted not with a huge sample size, of just being less picky with my lists. One thing, I mail almost exclusively out of county, for instance, and a lot of these counties, they're majority in-county owners. Every time I've tried mailing out of county, I've made those big mailers. My response rate has been terrible. It's been like half of what I have right now. Right now, I'm getting approximately a 0.5% response rate for leads.
Great.
Qualified and unqualified, but that I'm discounting all the screw you calls and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is that what I have to do? Do I just have to be less picky with my lists in order to get the kind of leads, the amount of leads I need to move to the next step, which would be to hire someone to take over our phones?
Yeah, the answer is like 90% no, 10% yes. We'll talk about that, but the first thing that we need to do is clarify, what the heck does Preston want? So what are you optimizing for? Like, what's the vision?
Well, I mean, right now it's not so bad in terms of my workload and everything. Okay. I mean, I have a kid, and there are all sorts of other things I want to do in life. But I mean, I did a time audit, and I'm maybe working 35 hours a week right now on my land business, right? Because this isn't the kind of business that takes 80 hours a week. You're not calling people for 8 hours a day. It's the calls that you make, they matter a lot, and you have to be on point. So but in terms of the time, it's not that bad. So I imagine I would like to build a business that's more like yours or Ryland's, where you're still working some, but you're leveraging other people's help to get bigger results in your business. Because what I'm thinking right now is, all right. Last year I bombed more than half my mailers. One, because I barely knew what I was doing. And I've since made some strategy changes, and that resulted in about almost $450,000 in pipeline profit and 210 realized profit. So if I do this, what I'm thinking this year is, if I do the same thing, and now that I know what I'm doing, I can send out almost the same amount of mail, maybe a little more, and maybe I can bring in like $800,000 in pipeline profit, right? Because I don't have to write off the half of last year, pretty much. So I'm kind of thinking this year I'm probably going to do that. I'm probably going to stay really lean. I'm going to hire generals to be kind of help me with the lists and everything, but I'm still going to be the one manning the phones, because what I'm thinking is, right now I have a bunch of lists, right? Curated lists. And as time goes on, more and more of my mailing is going to be remarketing, because there are only so many good counties in this country, and the market doesn't move so fast that you have to, in a lot of places, that you have to just delete them, right? So at some point, I don't know, I'll have 500,000 records or something that I'm just going to keep hitting once every 3 months or something like that. And at that point, maybe when I really know these markets, then I'll try boosting my mail to like 15, 20,000 a month or something like that. And that will give me the lead flow that will let me scale up and hire someone. Because right now, when I try to just send out 15, 20,000 units of mail, and I'm not too picky with my market selection and filters and everything, I mean, it just hasn't been working for me.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of good stuff to crack into.
Yeah.
First off, too, just to give people a context about like Preston's workload, I just want to clarify something. I think that when you're first getting started, let's say you're going through LIA, it is a bigger number, especially like halfway or in the beginning, because you might be putting 30 hours a week into the business and another 20 into education. So I will say, for the folks that do really well inside of LIA, I mean, they live, breathe, and eat this stuff. Like it's all consuming. They don't miss a coaching call. They go through the resources. So it is intensive in the beginning, but I really think once you kind of cross that threshold and you're in your groove, call it like a year in, dude, you can run a great business 20 to 30 hours a week with you and a VA, or some people even do it just by themselves and they do really well. You know what's funny? Actually, I just got a text here in the background. I'm curious, maybe you can guess it. Anyone know who I'm meeting up with tonight in Bali? It's another land investor. You guys probably know him, who I'm getting dinner with tonight in Bali. You have any guesses, Preston?
No.
Mr. Ajay Sharma's in Bali, man. He's in my neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Together tonight. Yeah, pretty cool. But anyways, okay, so I want to dig a little bit deeper, that I can give you some advice. The cool thing is, like, this has already been figured out for you, not necessarily inside of LIA, because it's a bigger problem than what's relevant for people just getting started. But the roadmap is already very clearly set. So that's the good news. And like, a lot of success is like copying and then like fine tuning and iterating a little bit, but like the path has already been cleared. That's the good news. But let me just clarify. Let's fast forward 2 years from now. Let's get it clear. How much money do you want to be making? How much time do you want to put into the business? What do you want to be working on in the business?
I would love to be making at least seven figures, at least $1 million in land.
Cool. Is there a specific number, like a freedom number, like if I get to 200K a month, I'm good, or just over $1 million?
Just $1 million at least. Yeah, I just want to see what that's like. You know,
Okay.
maybe I'm not going to like it for some reason, but I
Oh, no,
believe
you'll
that
like
every young man has to try that at first, just like they
Yeah.
have to drive a nice car and take a pretty woman out on a date. Everyone should do that at least once.
Yeah. No, you'll
Um,
like it. No one's ever said this is terrible, I want to go back.
Yeah.
But it's very doable. Okay. And then how much time do you want to put into the business? And then what do you want to be working on?
I mean, I'd say my current workload, maybe a little less, maybe 30 hours a week.
Okay. Cool.
Mhm.
And then is there an area that you like in the business, or kind of feel like you're a zone of genius somewhere?
I mean, right now I'm still doing a lot of flips, but I do think that as the competition increases and things become more efficient in the market, we do need to specialize in something value adds of some sort, subdivides, entitlements, that sort of stuff.
Okay. Okay. We don't have to think about that just yet. I think that the fatal flaw that people make is that they think, I mean, like, look at, like, and to some respect, what got you here won't get you to where you want to go. Like, yes, there are
Yeah.
some character traits we have to adopt and some new habits, but really actually within the business, like your strategy, the worst thing that someone can do is try to flip their strategy. If you've got something that works, the best advice is do more of it and do it for a really long time. Now, who you have to become, like, there's some changes for sure. And your business will evolve. But the thing is, like, when you have something you already have traction with, the simple answer is do more. So I definitely do not want you to change your mail strategy by any means. I do think that, yes, as you grow marketing, you do make some concessions for sure. So you won't always maybe be as pinpoint, but trying to do the shotgun approach, yeah, it's just not your dojo. It can work for some people, but we've already got a proof of concept, so we'll do more of that. Really, what you need here is you just need someone that can help. Like, you need to codify what you're doing for marketing and just groom someone to assist with that. Now, the way that I do that in the beginning is I codify a big chunk of it. So, like, the chunk might be the market selection, so finding these little honey holes, the creation of the polygons, and then the beginning stage of the pricing. So just synthesizing the pricing, they don't have to interpret the pricing yet. That's usually a harder thing to tackle. We will get them to do that over time. But if we can start codifying those big chunks, it's very easy to train someone up. I mean, I shouldn't say it's very easy. It's very doable in a few months, especially if you have it very clearly broken down. And the cool thing about what you're doing is you're doing one thing. You're doing sniper polygon mailers, right?
Yeah.
So it gets tricky when people have all these marketing strategies, and I find that's very hard to train on that, at least in a reasonable amount of time. This wouldn't necessarily be a generalist VA. Like, do you already have a VA in your business?
No, not right now. That's something that I need to get on board. I mean, my processes, they don't, in terms of getting mail out, I mean, I've got it down where it takes me maybe 2 hours a week or something like that. But
Okay.
I am planning on getting someone on board.
So most times our first hire is proactive, and then usually the hires thereafter are a little more reactive. So you will have to allocate some budget and some time to proactively hire someone to fill that role, even though it might not feel totally necessary, but we will do that. So probably the path looks like bringing in that data person. Certainly can be overseas. Like, you could do LATAM, you could do South Africa, you could do anything. You could even bring on a US based intern. There's plenty of people that would be willing to do that, especially inside of our community, not in LIA, but in the broader community. Now, the turnover will be high. They might only work with you for a year, and what they're getting in exchange for that is a bit of compensation and a hell of a lot of education.
Sure.
So that's a possibility as well. I usually like trying to sink my teeth into a hire that can be with us for quite some time. Now, the early stages of that is, again, just start codifying everything that you're doing. One of the easiest things that you can do is, I feel like the next couple of weeks, when let's say you're picking market and title land insights, do you have Loom?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the Loom Pro?
No.
Okay. Get the Loom Pro. And when you're doing that said thing, let's say you're picking markets inside of Land Insights, I want you to film it on the Loom Pro, share your screen, and I want you to commentate over it. So we get 3 assets from that. You get the recorded video with the narration, you get the transcript, and then the Loom AI has a really cool SOP creation where it'll synthesize everything you said and put it into like a pretty clean SOP. It'll probably still need some editing, but it's like it does like 90% of the work for you. So I just start doing that now and building that library. I'd probably start putting some feelers out for hires. It does take some time to find good people. I would also start building case studies. So if you can build, like, it could be a post-mortem video, or it could just be like pictures with text. I want you to show winning campaigns and case study them, and then break down why they worked. And so you can start building like this index or this library. I like to host that stuff on Notion. So one of the things that's very confusing is you start building these SOP libraries and they're all fragmented. Notion is beautiful. So what we started doing is we just build Notion dashboards for every role. Okay, this is our data role, and it has everything cataloged and indexed inside of there. And they can just go click on, and we'll have all the stuff on pricing. So I like to host all the stuff inside of there. And then what you need to do is you allocate a bit of a risk budget. So you say, okay, I'm hiring this person. I've allocated the risk budget for the hire. It's $1,200 a month. Okay, cool. I'm giving them a 90-day runway. And then you allocate a risk budget for their marketing. You got to let people fail a little bit. So you have to put some capital behind them where they can take some chances. You're still going to like review, but the cardinal sin is people try to go and do the work and correct it. They never explain it. So they do need to learn trial by fire. So we would do that. Okay. What are you mailing right now?
In terms of numbers?
Yeah.
After scrubbing and everything, 8,000 to 10,000 letters a month.
Okay, cool. And that's bringing in 30 leads a month or so?
30 to 40.
Solid. Okay, 30 to 40 leads coming in. With how meticulous you guys are with your data, you could probably temporarily manage. Oh, let me ask you this. Back up. 30 to 40 leads. How many contracts are you getting on average per month?
On average, I mean, of course there's some bombs, but I would say from 40 leads, I can get maybe 5 contracts, 4 to 5 contracts.
Okay. And are you temporarily willing to take that workload up and ratchet it up to 40 plus hours a week?
In terms of sending out more mail, or?
No. So what I want to do is I want to lay the foundation now proactively with the data hire. They're going to start working on that, even though you might not you're not going to scale your mail yet. It's not like you're going to hire them and now you're doing 20,000 a month. I would hire them. I would run like a 2 to 3 month pilot with them, keep the mail cadence the same, but just get them to do the thing for you. And there's going to be a lot of training work that goes in and you're reviewing. So it's not totally hands off. I really like good hiring, like to master hiring, which is if you want to make 7 figures in this business, we have to develop that skill. It's pretty fucking simple. And usually it's a breakdown in one of these areas. It's the selection of the persons where we select the wrong person. It's the wrong onboarding process. It's the wrong documentation for the training, and it's the wrong incentives. It's just one of those areas, right? And so you are going to spend a lot of time at the beginning with the onboarding and the creation of the SOPs of the library that they go through. So we would do that, run the pilot program with them where they're sending out the mail at the same rate. Once they've proven themselves, just like how you proved yourself with your marketing, then we'll ratchet up. I think that you could be able to manage 15,000 mailers a month and be fine. Now we got to split in the road. And now you have to decide, okay, the next hire that we make is either going to be a generalist VA with a heavy emphasis on like transaction coordination, or you bring on an acquisition manager. It sounds like you're pretty good at acquisitions, and I kind of get the sense that you enjoy it to some extent. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I do. That's my favorite part of business is getting contracts signed and making deals.
Yeah, we're not going to give that up. Then we're going to go with the generalist VA, who again, like at that point, you're going to be doing 7 deals a month, maybe a little bit more. Do that for 6 months. You're going to have 20 properties on market. Like there's going to be a pretty good TC workload there. They'll be doing other stuff, documentation of KPIs, finding realtors, setting up the photos, all that stuff. But a lot of that's going to be going on the TC side. That with that team structure right there and 15,000 mailers a month, making like 700 to 800K is totally doable. 2 VAs and you on the phone. So now you're still working a good bit. And so then the next hire from there would be obviously the acquisition manager. That's going to clear off 20 plus hours a week off your calendar immediately. And then you probably need like a full on TC person. And then the generalist VA moves into more like ops. And then with that team, that's $1 million team. If you're high leverage, you got the right people using land insights, all that jazz. But really, I think that the next point is just that data person. And that's going to open a whole new world for you. So yeah,
because that will allow me to get my mail up.
That'll allow you to get the mail up. So we're going to plant the seed with them to ramp them up. Because it's like, the mail is the gateway drug. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to get the mail up, but how can Preston get the mail up and run the call? It gets very tricky. So like, we got to give up some ground somewhere. Yeah. Now, for some people, they have the inverse phenomenon. They're complete data nerds. They are allergic to getting on the phone. So there is some kind of preferential treatment for like, what are we good at and what do we like? And that will dictate our hiring roadmap. But the people that we actually hire never really change. But this is the next skill. Okay. The next skill is, how do you find the right people? That's the magic. You know what I mean? Finding the right people is akin to finding the right market. You can almost do everything else wrong, but if you're in the right market or got the right person, you're going to be pretty successful. Right. So let's talk about that. Have you ever hired people before?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How would you rank your skill at
it? It's not my strong suit. Maybe a 6 out of 10.
Why would you say that? What area do you think is like your deficit?
Sometimes when I get real busy, you know what they say, if you're thinking about letting someone go, you should probably let them go. Well, I'm like, oh God, man, now I have to interview all these people and do this and do that. And they're doing 89%. I give them an 89 out of 100 or something like that. So let's just keep them in that seat for now.
Yep.
So
you're in
I guess.
It's not even just laziness, it's compassion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's that too. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, once you start building teams, you have to become disgustingly rational. And that's very painful because it's not that it's inhumane, but it's not very familiar to us to be so objective. And you got to look at the business as an entity, and the entity has to prevail at all costs. And honestly, the rationalization, whether it's true or not, is that like a B+ player on our team might have a horrible experience. They hate their job. It doesn't work for them. It's just a bad fit for everyone. But there might be a company out there where like they're a B+ to us, but they're an A+ to that organization, and everyone wants to feel like they're doing a good job. So like, it's just not the right fit for anyone. It's kind of how I rationalize it. Maybe that's just a good excuse. I don't know. Yeah. You're in a fortunate situation because you're not in a hurry, dude. Like, you've already got something that's working. You're good at it. So it's like, don't move too quickly here. Let's slow roll our dice with finding the right person. So there's a few things that we can do. Let me ask you this. Are you more leaning towards intern or overseas?
Probably overseas, especially if it's not something like an acquisitions manager that needs to work on the clock. Really, it's kind of work that could be. It's project-based work. It's not customer-facing.
Okay. Dude, what's funny is you could even hire someone in Medellin. What do you think the hourly rate is in Colombia?
Yeah, I probably could. Maybe. I'm not sure exactly for something like that, but in the Philippines, that would be like $5-6, and
it depends.
A couple dollars more.
It's a range. You could probably find like the needle in the haystack that's $5 or $6. Someone that's really good, probably closer to $8 an hour. But yeah, somewhere in there. You think it's about the same in Colombia?
It's probably a little more. I'd say maybe 20%, 25% more than that.
So that's one thing that you'll have to weigh. There is a huge gain to be had by training in person and having a team in person. I think the training is way easier. It's easier to manage, and I just find that there's way more motivation.
Sure.
Remote work has its challenges. So anyways, you don't have to hire in Colombia. That's just an idea, but you got a few options here. One, I would go get some placeholder like job listings up and just see what comes to you, and understand that literally 99% of it's going to be garbage. No offense to these people. Typically, people that are looking for jobs don't have a job for a reason. And so you kind of want to like be a little pessimistic. Like, and there's going to be slick talking people that are going to try to charm you. Don't listen to it. Most people are not going to be a good fit. So you can get some placeholder listings up. Again, these placeholder websites or like resources, lead pools, it's just a lot of whittling down. So where would I go? You got onlinejobs.ph. That's a classic. There's a lot of Facebook. This is a hidden little secret. There's a lot of VA Facebook groups that you can go on of VAs that are looking for a job. If you just Google whatever, remote workers or VAs fill in the country, you'll find a lot of these groups out there. So that's a good place. You can use a VPN and go post local listings in a certain region for like Indeed or these job hiring websites. I find that like it's much like sellers, right? Like if you're fishing in the same place where everyone else is fishing, you get worse results. So kind of going off the beaten path can be helpful. You can find contractors that want full-time work off of like Upwork or Fiverr or whatever. But honestly, one of the things that we moved over to, I'll put it in the chat for you guys. Some of you guys probably heard of it, is outsource your tasks. I've had great results with them. Now, it's not a surefire bet that like they've done all the work for you, so that you're going to get a great result. You still have to use your discernment and say no to a lot of people, but they do all of that initial recruitment work, and they just bring you people that you interview. And I find they bring really high quality candidates. They also do a really good job by like this. I'm looking for a data person, and they find people that have that skill set. They're really good at whittling it down. The problem is like with these general websites, you're going to put up for a data person. You're going to get telemarketers that reach out to you, email experts. You get people coming from the WordWorks that don't have those skills. No, this is coachable for sure, but I prefer to have someone that has those skills. The OIT is good. Any questions on that so far? I know I'm giving you a lot.
No, that makes total sense. I mean, it's just I guess it's sort of this is good information for me, because I was thinking my first hire should be a generalist VA or even an acquisitions manager at some point. I just have to send out more mail. But you're saying that I need to find someone who can help me send out more mail by just training them to be me, basically. Because I always thought that was kind of that's a super important part of the business. That's top of the funnel, right? Like if they pick something wrong and we send out 10, 20,000 units and they all bomb, that would really suck. Like that's the magic sauce. It's my ability to look at the matrix code and go like, oh, look, there's a good market. There's a good market. But you're saying I should find someone to do this, train someone to do this for me.
Yeah. I think the reason that's possible is because you are doing one thing, it's well-defined, and you're good at it. So the problem is like people have to pay their dues. And so they try to delegate a thing that they're not good at yet. But like one thing, it's very simple. And it'd be pretty straightforward to pass it off. I think bringing in a generalist VA, the problem is there's just not enough ops workload to really like get a huge bump in like time bought back for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could make an argument AM or data person, but I think in this case for your strategy, the data makes the most sense. And I think nowadays too, this is not a shameless plug, but with something like Land Insights, it is so much easier to codify this stuff and pass it off, because it's not go find the needle in the haystack. It's plug in the numbers that you're looking for and then pattern recognition. It's just like way easier. So I find it's much easier to pass it off. Like when I first got started, the advice that I had learned and kind of what I believed is that was the last thing that you'd ever delegate. And that's kind of true, because it is very hard to delegate, but it's changed a bit. Now the thing with the hire too. So let's talk about how you actually build the hiring funnel. I'll just give you the quick nuts and bolts. So for these job listings, you're going to put up like these barriers that they have to jump over. Right. So there's some really easy ones that you can do. I request that everyone goes. So what I do is I in my listing, I put one of our YouTube videos. I say, watch this YouTube video, synthesize what you learned, and then film a video of yourself sharing what you learned. So can they follow a task? Can they go, or are they willing to invest some time to watch something? Are they willing to show their face on camera? What does the background look like? What is the quality? What does the lighting look like? And then how good are they taking a big concept and then synthesizing it down into like a SparkNotes version? And then English test, we do the Cambridge English test, and then like the Tony Robbins disc file test. So that has to be submitted in an email to us. We tell them never message us on the platform. Send us an email to this email address. And then you can do these little hidden cookies. It's like your subject line has to say this. Okay. Then I'm also going to judge them on the formatting of their email. What's their email address? Do they have a picture on their email account? All these little things we'll start to put together. So then once they reach out, I don't get them on an interview. The next thing I do is I give them a quick task. So you'd want to like predefine this task and have like a Loom video that you just send to everyone. It could be, hey, here's an APN for a property. Go look it up on the county GIS website and tell me all the facts about it, right? What's the size of the property? Who's the owner? Or it could be more data related, some kind of task that's like somewhat relevant to the role or just at least like within like a similar domain. And if they pass that, then we'll move them to an interview. Okay. And then on that interview, usually we'll do a broader task together that might be data related for the role, something specific to the role. So I have them investing a crap ton of time on the front end and everyone drops like flies. People that make it through that, I'm impressed by.
Sure.
And also we judge them on the quality of their work.
Of course.
So yeah, okay. That's the process. And then we just need to define how much are you going to allocate as a budget for them. Now look, maybe you don't want to give up your full whatever 10,000 mailers a month. So maybe you just give up 5,000 mailers a month, and that's the risk budget you allocate for 60 or 90 days, and you judge them on the performance. And you let them know that you're hiring them as a 90-day role. They didn't just get a full-time job offer; they got a 90-day job offer. Then we reviewed at the end. So pressure's on. So yeah, questions on that?
No, that's pretty. You explained it pretty well.
Cool.
I mean, the thing with a role like this, because I'm finding new markets still, but I'm only a year and a month into this. So
Great.
I mean, you've been doing this for a while. You've sent out, I'm guessing, hundreds of thousands of mailers, and at some point, that skill of finding new markets. I mean, there are only so many markets you want to mail to in the States, right? Whatever that number is, 200, 300, 400 or something like that. I mean, is this what I'm saying is this a role that is important in your business later? Like, do you still have someone who's pulling out new counties to mail to all the time for you, seeing as you've mailed so many, like quite a bit of your mail must be remailing.
Yeah, well, it depends on the time frame that we're looking at. It's funny, a lot of the markets I started in aren't good markets anymore. Either they were never good markets and I was just unaware and ignorant, or they just changed. So it is ever evolving. So there is always work there. On a 1 year time frame or maybe even a 2 year time frame, it doesn't change that much. But stick in this business for 5 years, like the markets change radically. So there's always work there. It definitely changes as you start changing your marketing funnel. So as you start adding in cold calling and cold texting and cold email, the process changes a lot. And it is more of a shotgun approach by virtue of that. And so, yeah, we have someone full-time that's doing it. It's not necessarily sniper focused because we have these channels that we run them through, and then mail's at the very bottom. You know what I mean? We're much more selective of what we mail to, because it's getting run through so many channels that it gets absolutely whittled down by the time it comes out on the back end. And that will be a bridge that you will cross. Honestly, once you have the data person, a generalist VA, and an acquisition manager, the next step is we're going to bolt on an additional marketing channel, which I think has to be cold texting. Like just the way that we're running cold texting, there's just nothing that compares to it right now. It's just, it just crushes, but it's next to impossible without that team. So what else are you struggling with? Are there any other areas in the business outside of the hiring stuff that we can help with?
I mean, honestly, everything else I just have to kind of learn. I mean, the thing with my sales process and my sales skills, that's something that I'm constantly honing on a regular basis, inside and outside of LIA. So that part, I mean, that part I'm doing all I can to make it better. I mean, I guess you already answered my question. I was going to ask if I should introduce texting at this point, but you just said not until you do all that other stuff, and that makes more sense to me. Yeah. For everyone here, I mean, like texting dollar in, dollar out is the best channel when run correctly. Like just like mail, like it's not. There's a big skill component to it. But the problem is you're dealing with such
underqualified leads and such a high volume of them that you need a lot of butts and seats to run it. So it's a terrible place to start, but it is absolutely the logical next step. Once you get those people in place. What about questions on, I don't want to misguide you per se, because for sure the best advice is continue to do what's working and put blinders on, but do you have any questions around the value add stuff?
Yeah, I mean, see the things I'm kind of looking at, like one thing I kind of noticed is that so I probably have about $150,000 of deals that never made it to the finish line because of title issues, right?
Yep.
So I mean, it's just this, that, like the family, they hate each other, or this person's dead and they have to open an estate and stuff like that. And I'm 0 for like 6 on those deals. These are signed contracts. These are signed purchase agreements. But it's something that I'm kind of thinking about. I'm thinking about getting into. Have you spoken to Logan Fulmer before, or do you know of him?
Yeah, briefly. I've met him a few times. I've never like cracked into his education or anything along those lines, but I've heard good things.
Yeah.
I think honestly, you could certainly look in that direction. And again, I think he's probably like the leading expert when it comes to this stuff right now. But also you can take a simpler approach if you want to just dip your toe in, which I mean, honestly, I kind of exclude the curative title stuff from value add. It's a little different in my head, but it's a great addition to what we do. And it honestly, it could be the most logical next step for a lot of people. But I think what's easier there is like curative title is all encompassing. It's like what that actually means is like 12 different like common playbooks. You know what I mean? So I think what's easier is just master one. And you can learn one of these like through ChatGPT, talking to lawyers, maybe like going on Upwork. You can find people that used to work at title companies, like these title abstractors. You can just be like, no, let me pay you for an hour and just learn one. And typically it does change from state to state. So maybe learning it for a state that you're very familiar with. So maybe you really wanted to get very good at probate, right? You could literally learn that in a month and become pretty freaking proficient at it and just start just tackling it that way. I think when like I've thought about this stuff, it's so overwhelming because there's so many different avenues. The airship stuff is interesting. You're really kind of doing the private investigation things and hunting people down. Out of the properties that you've had that fell through, were there any commonalities in the title problems?
Well, a lot of it's stuff like my great granddaddy died and he never left a will. And I think there are 4 of us, but there might be more that have some sort of interest in this property. No one talks to each other. None of us want to spend any money or any time whatsoever working on this. But I've been paying property taxes for the last 30 years. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
Have you gone down the rabbit hole in trying to solve any of these?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, what it boils down to most of the time is at some point, someone has to put some effort and money into moving the football along, and no one wants to do that. They don't want to do it, even if it means a $50,000 paycheck at the end. I don't want to do it because I'm not gonna do this and find out that there are actually 10 people who are on title, like who have interest, and we have to make sure they're all on board with this price and selling this property and everything. So it's just something that I don't understand very well. So I'm not willing to kind of invest in these deals like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the good news about this stuff is that you're always pretty much for all of these, it's always going to be required that you have legal counsel for most of them.
Yeah.
And so really, again, it's almost just like everything in this business, it's a who, not how. If you can get plugged in with a good attorney, and then you'll have to do some like probably genealogy stuff on your back end for on your side, like ancestry or whatever. But yeah, have you tried calling any attorneys and getting on the horn with them?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay.
It's I've learned little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I think I might join Logan's program to kind of learn more, because I mean it's almost an entirely different. It is an entirely different business than what we're doing, because these are free lists pretty much that he's contacting, and he spends. I mean, he makes many millions, but he spends like $50,000, $60,000 on legal fees every month. So it's a different animal than land.
It's a different beast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely am not necessarily envious of that business model on its own, but I think if you can marry these two concepts together, it's pretty dangerous to have these two things put together. But yeah, man, I definitely recommend that, or going to one of his boot camps. I know a lot of people have had good success going to those in-person events. But yeah, man, it's definitely a who not how thing. I mean, I think what I've learned too is without fail, the seller's never going to do the work. So it's always on our side for the money that we have to spend and the time and all that stuff. And it usually requires disgusting levels of negotiating these things to where because the thing about this strategy, which I think is uncomfortable, is that actually there's a hell of a lot more risk, because you are going to be putting out money, whether it's paying people to get a signature or paying the attorney, with no guarantee of anything on the back end. And so they have to at scary prices, prices that are unfamiliar to us for what we do. But yeah, man. Yeah, I've thought about working with him as well to learn a bit more. But it's a shiny object thing too. I'm like, what we're doing is working, and I've just kind of been slowly chipping away a little bit better at probate or some of these smaller things.
What I'm thinking, I mean, because the goal is I want bigger deals. Like that's what most people want, right? And I've actually haven't done one subdivide or had one subdivide property come in yet. I had a couple of them where I'm like, yeah, I could make it work, but I just ended up selling them and making a good amount of money from them. But I mean, what do you think about that for me? Like just sending out just mailers that are just focused on acquiring large acreages with a lot of frontage and somewhat desirable areas for that.
It's bittersweet. I mean, with the new road frontage AI scrub, it definitely changes the game in terms of like the efficiency of your marketing. Prior to that, it never was very successful to deliberately target them on their own. The good news is, like, most of the markets that we work in, they overlap to being good subdivided markets and having a lot of rural properties. I think for more than anything, it's the pattern recognition of the right properties and then knowing the regs for your market really well, opposed to trying to target them individually. Because, dude, I guarantee you, out of the 200 leads that you've had, there's at least one subdivided opportunity that you missed because you didn't understand the regs or whatever. And so there's a lot of hidden value just by getting really clear on those. For most of the markets you're working in, are you familiar with how it works for subdividing?
Yeah, I mean, most of these places are pretty rural, so for minor subdivides, it's a pretty straightforward process. I mean, the thing about they're only occasionally landing in my CRM sometimes. But the thing for me is how do you get these funded and stuff like that? Like if you're targeting, I mean, everyone wants to buy a property for 50 and sell for 100. That's super simple. But if I say, hey, will you buy this for 300 so that we can sell it for 600 and it'll take a year or maybe a little more. I mean, is that something that I can, that kind of works the same way?
Yeah, not really. I think JV funding for subdivides is not great. There are funders out there that will take it on for sure. But I think they're rare, and it probably takes a lot of finagling to find the right people. I think that when it comes to subdividing, debt is probably a great option, or just leverage, I guess. And so, like, there's 3 ways that we can do that. Owner financing. You're usually dealing with large sums of money, and I find that these sellers are way more open to owner financing than the $50,000 property. So there's that. And even if you can get them to carry half of it, like, that's still a great win for you. Second thing is debt. So people like Eric Shiraga or some of these other people out there, you still have to put 20% down for a lot of them. The debt can make a lot of sense. Alternatively, if they're big enough, dude, getting bank financing is not that hard on these deals. Your first one will be hard, but it gets pretty easy once you build that relationship. And it's really good terms in a lot of cases, sometimes no payments for a year. And so you can go control that property with 25% down. I'm not like fully leveraged. So like I'm either closing on them myself or I'm paying for the down payment and then using debt or
Right.
I think that makes the most sense. You end up giving such huge sums of money, and it's not really advantageous for the JV strategy because from start to finish, a subdivide probably takes a year.
Right.
It's slow going. But the cool thing is, if you are using debt, you can pay off the lender pretty quickly. Like we have a deal we were just talking about with the team yesterday. We picked it up a couple of weeks ago. 7 parcels in North Carolina. It actually came to us pre-subdivided. We're using debt on it. I'm controlling the property with $12,000 down, and it'll take me two sales to pay off the entire balance of the note, and then I own the rest free and clear.
Sure.
So I think that's a great strategy. Where with the JV option, you're paying them on every property. That sucks. It's a lot of money.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, yeah, just I would say just get very familiar with the regs. And what I mean is not so much just like, oh, the exemption stuff, but like even a little bit deeper, because sometimes it's like, well, this is a 20 acre. So you're thinking about the regs for the exemption for 10-acre subdivides. But if it has water, if it has municipal water, you can actually get down to 5 acres. Now it is profitable. So it's usually the fine print, the very weird stuff in between. Or in some places, like we don't have a lot of road frontage, but you could go and put in a road, a gravel road or a dirt road. It'll cost you 10 grand and they don't require you to pave it. And now you can subdivide it down to 6 lots, So it's really this weird stuff in between. And also, if you know the regulations, sometimes a major subdivide isn't off limits. I think I usually stray most people away from it. But in the right market, a major, it might not be that difficult. But you just got to really know that area pretty damn well. It's like the same thing with your rezoning. Dude, in almost every instance, rezoning is a pain in the butt. So difficult. But you're in the right market where rezoning was easy as pie. And so really knowing that place.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, and then we can wrap up here. But I don't know if you're already doing this. So obviously you can continue to remarket to the markets that have worked. That's obvious. But are you starting to kind of look for like lookalike markets to what's already worked for you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. What I'll do is if I know a market really well, I'll double down on it. So there are some markets that I found where I'm like, the demand here is kind of latent. It's not exactly, most people will look at this and pass it over, but our property sold super quickly. I double down my marketing there. I send in county and I send all around the whole area, like a atomic bomb, like just all the surrounding counties. Cause I'm like, there's something that'll work here. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I'm definitely using that strategy.
Okay. Well, I'll take it to the next level for you.
Sure.
And you can use ChatGPT for this. I'm giving you guys some sauce here. It's very simple, but it's so valuable. Have you ever done like a meta study on your deals? That's probably a confusing way to put it. Have you ever studied the correlations and the commonalities behind all your deals?
Not on paper, but in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Put it to paper. So weird shit starts to come up. And I want you to look at everything from the markets, the commonalities, correlations there, your offer letter, if you ever change that, the percentage price point, the seller's characteristics, and you'll start to find some very weird correlations. And that can influence your market selection. For example, like weird stuff comes up. You might notice that every deal that's made you $50,000 and above came from a market where at that time it had less than 30 active listings. Like weird stuff. And it's not a guarantee correlation, like, correlation isn't causation necessarily, but I've unearthed some very strange things. And it is partially personal. Everyone's business can have different correlations that work for you. But I would recommend that, and that might influence your market selection as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll look into that. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Anything else, guys? Any questions in the chat, or should we wrap up here? Preston, I appreciate your time. We just hit the 2-hour mark. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark. Before we wrap up, if there's anything you guys want to ask Preston, or anything you guys want to ask me, feel free to put it in the chat. Preston, you got any fun plans for the weekend?
Just some self-care. Yeah,
Nice.
that's right now I'm finding that with my son, my self-care has to catch up sometimes. So
Mhm.
sometimes people look at me and they're like, "Man, what happened to you?" And then they're like, "Oh, you look great again." So I'm just gonna get some self-care in.
Okay. Are you still training a lot?
I am. Yeah, I'm doing boxing a few
Nice.
times a week right now. Yeah, like just working on my hands, and I go to gym a few times a week. So uh, it's just I don't have quite the oomph that I did before before I started getting only 4 or 5 hours of sleep a day. But
Yeah.
yeah, gotta maintain my habits.
Nice, man. Are you sparring at all?
Yes, yeah, and I do think the punches hurt a little more when you're sleep deprived and probably your nutrition's not top notch. But yeah, I'm still sparring, but I'm more selective with my sparring partners.
Yeah.
If you're preparing for your fight, I might stay away from you.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Cool, brother. Well, let's wrap up here. I saw Global Loopy G says I put one in the chat, but I didn't understand your question. You said for those that need a wholesale land to build capital, what do you suggest for a space for cold calling? I don't know what you mean for a space. I just, I mean, you can certainly start cold calling lists, and I don't really recommend wholesaling as my strategy. Find deals, get someone to fund them. You can put it in our Discord. There's plenty of funders there, or double close them. But the assignment game doesn't really work. But like Preston and I said in this call, like just save up, get educated, play the game correctly. You'll save so much heartache and you'll go so much further, so much faster. It's not sexy, it's not fun. It feels like a step in the wrong direction. But yeah, do you know a place for cold calling? No, I don't know any cold calling programs. I mean, it's not really a cold calling phenomenon. Like getting on the phone with the sellers, whatever, that's pretty learnable. It's really everything that happens before then. So are you selecting the right markets? Are you creating the right offers for sellers? Are you pursuing the right properties? Are pursuing the right sellers with the right motivation characteristics? And all that stuff is an education game. So get educated. You can apply cold calling. I think eventually you'd want to move that to mail. It's much more scalable. But you can start with cold calling for sure. But get the foundations correct. Like if you're cold calling in Houston, you might make some money, but you're not laying the foundation to build a real business. So if you're trying to land invest, like what we're talking about here, play the game correctly. And that definitely requires spending the next 3 months, and then you're going to go so much farther, so much faster. So, anyways, guys, appreciate it. Preston, appreciate your time, brother. Enjoy your weekend. Get some sleep. Take care of yourself. I'll talk to everyone soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks, much appreciated.
Bye.